Today's guest is one of the UK's most loved TV and radio presenters. She became known as one of BBC Radio 1's lead hosts, and along the way, she has hosted the BRIT Awards, Top of the Pops, and has even competed on Strictly Come Dancing. Throughout her thriving career, she's flown the flag for young black Brits across the industry and has smashed that glass ceiling, baby, including becoming the first black woman to host a prime daytime show on BBC Radio 1. Today on The Pieces, babes, it's Clara Amfo. Babes, it's Clara Amfo. How are you doing?
Oh, Bimini Bombula, you're very kind and lovely. Intros are funny, aren't they?
Yeah, I know it is. I always find it funny. I'm sat there like smiling most of the time.
It's weird hearing about yourself in like biography speak, but
you've achieved so much.
Here we are, babes.
You've done it. You've done the thing. You've been doing it. You continue to do it.
There's still stuff to do, trust me.
How does it feel for you when you recount some of the huge achievements that you have accomplished?
It feels surreal, but I'm really at a space where I'm really trying to own feeling proud now more than ever. I'm really doubling down on just being me and giving myself a pat on the back, and other people that I know from similar backgrounds or different backgrounds like yourself. I think to do well, especially in this UK, especially in the creative industry, when you are not the default norm of society, you know, whether that's across race, class, gender, sexuality, whatever, you've got to give yourself your snaps, because I'm really learning, like, don't get me wrong, to have community is a golden thing. And I hold community so precious, like it keeps you alive. Like if it wasn't for the incredible black women in my life, I wouldn't bloody be here. Women in general, but if we're being specific when it comes to, you know, the things that make us, again, not the default, which is, you know, men and
straight white man, basically.
You know, you've really got to be like, bitch, you did that.
You did it.
But there's still work to do, babes. There's still work to do.
Who inspires you? You said about the black women that have done it. Who are those people?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm thinking about like Oprah. I'm thinking about Hold Tight June Sarpong, like, but I'm also thinking about, like, I'm very much about giving people their flowers who definitely don't get, who you may not hear of, and like I'm very about doing my research and who's come before me. And this is not being like pernickety or whatever, but like, you know, there's an incredible broadcaster who came before me called Lisa Ianson. And she was my big brother Sam, and my big brother Andy. She was like I guess sort of like their generation's like favourite broadcaster. And she used to be on Radio 1, but she technically was like the first black woman on Radio 1. But you know, I am lucky enough to be a patron at the Royal Academy of Arts, and there was an event there the other day celebrating Fashion Week, and like it's just fab. Anyway, June Sarpong was there, and somebody didn't know that we knew each other, and I literally said to the person, like, you don't understand, if it wasn't for this woman, I would not have a career. Because like seeing her on TV, you know, a dark-skinned black woman, thick, juicy lips, like not speaking the Queen's English, like that, it leaves an imprint. Same way with Oprah, you know, I was obsessed with learning about her growing up, because her circumstances, she shouldn't be where she is. She was born dirt poor, like I think in a southern state of America, you know, molested by her family, pregnant at 14, like the child passed away, whatever, like, you know, basically taught herself to read, and is who she is now.
And is Oprah.
Do you know what I mean? And listen, I'm not saying she's perfect, but seeing people defy the odds who look like you can't help but be inspired. So even when, you know, you exist in a body, or you just exist in a life that essentially where you're being told like, don't know if that's for you. You think, yeah, but Could be.
So what is that about that's rebellious?
It is actually.
Be like that.
No, it is.
And quite punk.
Do you know what? It is, and I've been thinking about this a lot recently because, and I sound like a broken record, so sorry if you've heard me say this on other interviews, but baby, this is just my truth at the moment. Like, I have definitely, I wouldn't even call it accepted, but it's a common ground I found with a lot of my friends, and I'm sure you've probably found this too, where people always talk about imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
And my main issue has been dealing with other people wanting me to have imposter syndrome. Yeah. People being like, what are you doing? I'm like, baby, the same thing you're doing. If I'm in the room, you're in the room, we're here.
We're good.
And it's sort of like the receipts are there. Do you know what I mean?
I think I've definitely, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had it over the years where I knew myself well enough to get me into those spaces. And I think hearing other people's opinions, that kind of did deflate me a bit sometimes.
Absolutely.
But you've got to bring yourself back up.
Absolutely. And I think the thing with me is I've known who I am from early.
Yep.
And I think I've never, and don't get me wrong, we're ever evolving creatures, but I've always had a very strong sense of who I am. And I think that can rattle people.
Yeah, it's intimidating, I think.
It is, actually. And I think your gut doesn't lie to you. And I think, listen, human beings, we're tricky creatures, right? And I think you never know what someone's going through. And I also think people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are, or in the way they think they are. Well, everything's relative, but then sometimes they are. Do you know what I mean?
And that voice in your head, you've got control sometimes.
Exactly. And then it's that thing of like, but I also have compassion for people because, again, they don't know what I'm going through in the same way I don't know what they're going through. But at the same time, I think your gut doesn't lie. Mm-hmm. And I've definitely encountered moments and just had feelings and I've thought, no, I'm here. I know you don't want me to be here, but I'm here. And that's on you to figure out, babe.
It's funny you said that because I read your in Hunger magazine when you did the cover, and you were speaking about the Brits.
Yeah,
and you said in that about your kind of identity and the intersectional strains of your identity and what shapes you. Like you've always known yourself well enough to get into those rooms, and like you knew yourself enough, but it was making other people
absolutely
believe it.
I think that's always been my sort of my quote unquote struggle for one of the best part. But I think a lot of my friends, whether they are, whether they're black, whether they're, South Asian, like anyone who's like essentially not white, whether they're working class, if they're not straight, and again, anyone who's from outside of the I guess, the elite margin, shall we say, it's not that we don't question our ability. It's just about, am I going to get the chance to be in the room?
Yeah.
That's what the issue is. Do you know what I mean? And then
I've always felt that as well.
Exactly.
I've always understood that. Like, I know that I can work my ass off and get myself to whatever I want to do, whatever I want to achieve. I think you said that as well. Like, you know that you can kind of give your all to anything you do, but it's about getting other people to believe that.
100%. And it's like, it's a constant... like you say, those glass ceilings, but I live to break through them. But also, babe, sometimes it's fucking exhausting.
It's exhausting. You've got to work even harder.
Yes, to work twice as hard to get half as much. Like
work hard just to get half back.
No, literally, and it's that thing of like, whenever I speak out against things and up at things, I think. In a lot of ways, I sort of exist in a bit of an echo chamber. Like, I surround myself with very like-minded people. So it's not that I get people being like, oh, Clara, shut up. But then, obviously, when some of the thoughts I express maybe hit the mainstream, whatever, and you really see that nasty side.
Yeah, like people come out the woodwork.
People are wild. Yeah, people will want to be like, oh, here we go, victim mentality, victim. It's just like, no, it's like, I can't wait for the day when we can stop having, for example, a Women in Music Awards. I look forward to the day when actually in some ways there's not a Mobos or there's not a anything. But then it's tricky because, and I say it's tricky a lot, by the way, dear listener, dear viewer, you're going to hear me say it's tricky. It's my catchphrase. I love that there are spaces to celebrate people on the margins. Yep. I love that. But then at the same time, I dream of that sort of like, utopia when there is an absolute meritocracy, when everyone does get treated so equally that you don't need them. It's tough, isn't it?
It's tough. And I think like we fight a similar thing in that sense, is like we do want that. We want the spaces where everyone is treated equally, but it's such like I feel like sometimes it feels idealistic or it feels like you're fighting against something that is impossible almost, because when it's like, if you're taking up space and you're the first to do it, obviously it's an incredible thing, but that thing weighs heavy.
Absolutely.
That must feel like it's like a kind of, it can be difficult sometimes to do that.
100%. And at the same time, I really believe in sacred spaces for like different cultural groups, like because community is needed.
Community is so important, and I think a lot of the time when we have those, I'll use Pride as an example. The reason we still have a Pride is because homophobia is on the rise and it's continuing to rise. Transphobia is on the rise. And then you have someone screaming, why do we not have a straight Pride? And it's like, the reason you don't have a straight Pride is because I can't walk down the road with holding my partner's hand without fear for my own safety. And until that day happens, we need to continue, you know?
Exactly. It's like when people chat shit about like Black History Month or like
it's so important.
Every year when the Mobos, I was like, oh my God, like, what if we have the Mobos? It's just like, guys, do we really want to have that conversation?
Yeah, it's always someone that comes out and says it and they're like not part of the community. It's like almost like live and let live. Like if it's not affecting you, why are you so bothered?
That's it. If it doesn't apply, let it fly, honey.
Yeah, if it doesn't apply, let it fly.
Exactly.
I love that.
But
well, I'm interested in what 18-year-old Clara, who has just left school to study at St Mary's University College, studying media, would think of where you are today.
I'd be like, rah, really? Wow. I'd be like, okay, you did the thing. I would say, wow, you did the thing, but it still would shock me. I've in so many ways, I've definitely superseded what I expected. Like I had big goals, but I think the magical thing about life and this ridiculous industry that we're in is that even when you do have your shit days and you do think, because don't get me wrong, there have been times I've just thought, Clara, what is the point? I've definitely felt that, oh my God, and felt like giving up. Even like last year, I was like, I remember, like, before Glastonbury, I was lucky enough to interview Elton John, and I was in Sir Elton's house, and like, we're mates now.
That's incredible.
And he's wicked, but like,
I saw him at the Attitude Awards last week.
He's fabulous, and like, I was like, rah, I'm in Elton John's house.
Madness.
If you told me that when I was 18, I would literally be like, oh, don't lie. And stuff like that, I'm just like, oh my God. Again, things like I hosted the BRIT Awards this year.
Insane.
Which I'm so proud of, because again, I it's, you know, that's part of our cultural fabric,
Absolutely.
pop culture fabric, and like there's so many like historical moments that we've loved watching it growing up, and like to know that I'm in that history, and like I'm not one of these people, I don't keep all my sort of accolade stuff like spread about my house. I've got my little office where I do my work and I keep it in my office. Personally, for me, I find it tacky. Other people, if you like it, I love it. For me, you're not walking in my living room like seeing whatever.
Yeah.
But I've got like my BRIT, because they give you a BRIT Award and you host it. I've got that, and it's in my office. And I looked at it the other day. It sits next to my Barbie doll. Thank you. No. And I was like, shit.
Insane.
And even as I'm talking, I'm a bit like, oh my God, I might sound like one self-aggrandizing bitch, but I'm gonna be so real with you when I say, and I'm only speaking from my experience, and honestly, the experiences of a lot of Black women that I speak to, whether they're in this industry or not. Growing up as a young Black girl, you have got to love yourself in such a way that is punk. You got to love yourself so hard and so radically, because by and large, people kind of don't want you to, or they want to kind of suck out the resources of the Blackness. Everyone wants to enjoy the hairstyles and the dance moves and the lingo and whatever. But when it comes to Black women, we're not really protected.
No.
And you see that systemically, like whether it's Black women giving childbirth, Black women in the like, you know, dying at alarming rates, Black women in the workplace not getting certain promotions, like, you know, certain beauty standards. It's like, you know, you'll see popular celebrities, like, you know, getting their lips full, and listen, I'm not anti-procedure. Yeah. But, you know,
things that were like almost mocked or ridiculed, or things that you didn't feel or just wasn't seen as the beauty standard growing up, is now being kind of taken and celebrated in a different way.
But without the source, and you've got to love yourself in such a particular way, I think, as a Black woman growing up in this country. So that is why I've really had to learn to like not dim myself and try and be like, whatever. Like I'm so fucking grateful for the life that I've built for myself and the career I've built for myself. But also I've worked fucking hard for it.
You have done.
So I'm trying to just really stay defiant in that, because if I don't back myself, who's going to? Like, to quote good Auntie Roo.
Yeah.
If you don't love yourself.
Don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else?
Literally.
Where does that come from, though? Where does that grit?
I think, it's out there now. I had a conversation with my good friend Annie Mack about stuff I went through as a little kid. Like, I'm a survivor of serious sexual abuse as a child. That definitely had an effect on my just on my sense of self, because I think anybody that goes through any type of trauma, particularly sexual trauma as a kid, like it affects the way you see the world and the way you see yourself. And I really had to work hard to rebuild myself from the bottom up, because I basically had a nervous breakdown when I was like 18, 19. And I had to force myself to do a lot of work, a lot of self-reflection. I think a lot of people don't really do to them. They're late 20s, early 30s. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's been...
It's powerful to do that.
But it was powerful and fucking painful. But having to go there, I think... Yeah, it made me grow up very quickly, but it forced me to get that grit, because I'm kind of hyper independent. I say this like to a fault, because even though I've got a big family, I had to kind of fight alone and for myself for a long time, because there was so much secrecy around what had happened to me. It kind of it made me. I had to become my own biggest advocate, to be honest. And like I say, like it was bloody painful, but I'm proud of how far I've come. I can really say that confidently now. But there's been some fucking dark moments. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think you just having that grit and that tenacity to keep going and keep fighting is so empowering and powerful. What kind of things inspired that, or what did you look to in moments of those darkness,
It was other people, like I mentioned earlier, like I was obsessed with Oprah, because I remember thinking like, wow, I feel so connected to this woman, because, she had a similar thing. She was an abuse survivor, and she was a darker skinned black woman, and she, existed in a bigger body at the time. And like, she had everything going against her to be a success, and she did it, and then some. Like Oprah is a blueprint. Do you know what I mean? There's certain people in culture I call blueprint people, like a Prince, or like literally just like a one of one, like a David Bowie. Like these like blueprint figures. Like these people were meant to be here, I think, to set precedents and to change people's lives. I really believe that there are certain people that. Because listen, the whole concept of fame and celebrity it's so odd and so weird, because
we've created it.
And I also think fame and celebrity is almost like the almost the dumbest, most ridiculous concept we have, because isn't it quite strange that like there are billions of people on this earth, but there's a finite group of what maybe, let's say, 800 or 900,000 people, maybe 1 million people that everybody in the world knows.
Yeah.
It's not normal.
No, it's insane. And I think social media also it goes into that. And like the fact that you can see what they're up to so much, that almost becomes the new gods in a way for a lot of people.
No, and loads of people got God complex, and like everybody wants to be the main character.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to, and we are in a culture, and we've created a culture that says, look, when you've got a microphone in your hand, there's something special about you.
Yeah.
I think personally, we are now at a point in culture where we love making not bright people and famous for no reason, and I find it quite stressful.
Yeah,
and I think it's made people quite ravenous and quite tapped in a way that I wonder. I see how modern celebrity affects people, and I find it fascinating, but I actually find it quite scary. Like, listen, I want us to clap for our great thinkers and our cultural provocateurs and our great singers and our great freedom fighters, and do you know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
These are the people that I want to clap for.
Artists and people that are like making the change.
But then don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying I don't enjoy like a bit of reality TV. Listen, when Love is Blind is on, bitch, I'm watching that every fucking week. I'm following their Instagrams, I'm seeing what they're doing. But then 5 minutes later, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I do think there needs to be a sort of rebalance. Do you get what I'm saying?
Andy Warhol said he's going to get to a point where everyone's going to have their 15 minutes.
And I'm fascinated by watching this ever evolving shift in style. But what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But to go back to your original question, sorry, I'm going off in a tangent.
Good, I'm loving
about who do I look to? But that's why I did look to somebody. Sorry, it's okay. No, it's okay, baby. But that's why I did look to somebody like an Oprah, because I feel like it was in her destiny to be who she was, to inspire Black women globally, but not just Black women in general, but specifically, I like somebody like me, seeing somebody like her, I was like, oh my God, like there is hope. You can heal yourself. You can be a success. You can push through, and like no matter what people tell you, like it can be done.
I think it's so interesting what you've said, so many amazing, interesting points. But what you said that was interesting about the whole kind of celebrity culture and like that kind of idea of like, what are we doing? Do you think that helps you when you're interviewing people a lot of the time? Because like you've met so many people that people wouldn't know what to say to, you know? So do you think having that mindset has kind of helped in those moments?
Absolutely, because I'll be really real with you. I don't get that starstruck anymore. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, like I'm impressed by what people do and have contributed to society, of course. But ultimately, we're all just people getting on with it. That is my fundamental, like, absolute true belief. We are all just people getting on with it. So when I'm sitting across from Elton John, I'm thinking, no, but you're little Reginald, who grew up in Watford, who was, you know, a sweet little queer boy who fell in love playing the piano, and that healed your soul, and you knew you had a gift, and you shared that with the world, and you changed people's lives with that. And look what you've done. You've become this incredible advocate for sobriety, for HIV and AIDS awareness, and like you've done that. That's who I see, as well as enjoying the hits. Or when I'm sat down with, like, I don't know, Justin Bieber, I'm thinking, you're a little boy who was born to two, like, really young parents. You're growing up in fucking chaos. You've been given this lovely gift to entertain people, but you're growing up in chaos. Of course your life's like mad. So now I see him settle down, doing up wife life, having a nice time. I'm just like, good for you, babe. Do you know what I mean?
Well, you're seeing it from a way that a lot of people won't, I guess, is like you're stripping away the glam, you're stripping away the personality, stripping away the ego, you're seeing them for the human.
Exactly. But I think that's, for me personally, it's all I can do. Don't get me wrong, I love fabulosity, and I love to see like the illusion people create with their artistry. Like I that's why I love Drag Race.
Exactly.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's fascinating to watch what people can create. That's why I love music and art and culture. But it's like, wow, you can walk in like your dressing room like one way, come out another, give people a show and experience they'll never forget, and that's amazing. I love to interrogate that and learn about that. But ultimately, when you strip it all back, it's just a human being like doing what they're supposed to do, and that's what I'm always interested in.
Well, I think that's why, like, I mean, you work hard, you're incredible at what you do.
Thank you,
there's something that's like, you've done such amazing things, you're going to continue to do that. I think one reason that you have done so well and continue to do so is you do have a curiosity in people. Like, you have this innate wanting to know and see people for like a deeper level, you know? Where do you think that comes from? Like that kind of, because even what you were just saying then, that stripping back of the person, like not everyone is able to do that.
Do you know what's, again, I've been having this conversation with friends recently, and not to be like, but it just goes back to my childhood trauma, but like, I guess because I've always known from a young age, not everything is as it seems. Yeah. And so I think that's why I've just always been curious about people, because I've always known whatever you see, that there's always something else going on you've got no clue about. And I have to remind myself about that when it just comes to like judgment or, you know, any type of assumptions, because everyone's got stories to tell.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
You see past the smoke and mirrors in a way.
I think so. But then I think at the same time, it's a bit of a gift and a curse, because I was saying this to a mate of mine the other day, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm very blessed with the career that I've got. But I did say, God, I wonder what life would be like if I learned to be a bit more fake. Because one thing, I'm sure you know this, in entertainment, a lot of people are way too afraid to say the quiet part out loud around so many things. And I think I think I would be a lot more quote unquote popular. And don't get me wrong, I love the friends that I've got in my real, and I think everything is my real life, but all the friends that I hang out with, like in our industry, are my actual real friends. Like you will never see me in a hostage situation, I call it, in a photograph. You see people from like parties, and you're like, You don't like no.
Yeah.
Someone just forced you to. I don't. I've got. I'm like, you will never see me in a picture of somebody that I don't like.
Don't wanna be,
I'm telling you that now on record with Jess. Like, I will never do a podcast with someone that I genuinely don't like to have a rapport with. Like, it's not my style. And I think I know I'd be a lot more maybe popular in what I call like shiny gang circles if I was like. But it's just,
It's just not you. But you keep it real though. And that's the most
some people
important thing.
don't like that, Bimini. We know this.
People don't like it, but I think like you're such a voice for a lot of people that see that in you, that authenticity. It goes back to that authenticity, you know? But we were both inhabiting London's club scene around the same time.
Yeah.
In different scenes. But I've seen you at a lot of different places. I was at as well. But you were at Plastic People.
Love Plastic People.
In East London.
My God, I love that
I was at Sing the
club.
Pink, but you also went to Sing the Pink.
Do you know, I did, I was a judge at the Sing the Pink prom. I want to say...
Miss Sing the Pink. Or was it prom? Oh, prom.
I think it was Miss Sing the Pink, but I think the theme was like... I think it was Miss Sing the Pink, and it was, I want to say it was pre-pandemic. I think it was 2019, because that's it. Because I remember I went as the head basketball player, but like sort of like cute femme style, and like because Eve was performing.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and I think it's like me and like Jamie Winston, I think, were on the panel.
I love Jamie Winston.
Oh, she's fab. She's a great time. And yeah, no, it was a vibe. But yeah,
But why do you think club culture is so powerful?
I think for me, and again, like within the black community, I've definitely had people question my blackness because I'm into all different types of things. I think, you know, in the same way that like queerness doesn't look one way, blackness doesn't look one way. And surprise, like as we know, there are queer black people. Like, listen, if it wasn't for queer black people, I'd be telling you now, I wouldn't be here today. Like queer black men saved my life. I'm not even joking. Like some of the most important relationships I have are because of the queer black men in my life and black trans women. Like I will wherever I can, because I know people like to be like, and listen, I'll tell you this now, straight people watching, just because you've got a queer hairdresser or makeup artist, it doesn't mean you'll do it. Like, no, like, come, let's keep it a buck. Because I think, sorry, I'm going off so many tangents.
Do it, please.
Can I tell you one of my fucking pet hates? This is what I mean about not about saying quite out loud. Do you know what I can't stand? Yeah, every Pride Month, it makes me embarrassed for my fellow straight women in the public eye. You know who I'm talking. When it's Pride Month, stop posting up a picture of you in 7 different rainbow coloured dresses and being like, "Happy Pride, everyone."
Yeah. Yeah. What are you doing?
Who is this for?
Yeah. Who is it for?
Who is this for? Are you sticking up for black trans women if they're getting murdered? Yeah. Are we talking about that? Are you talking about...
How far does your allyship go?
Exactly. Are we talking about HIV and AIDS research or whatever? Or is it basically like, oh my God, I love the gays who do my hair and makeup? No. Do better.
Yeah. It's tricky to see that, isn't it? Because it's like you want them to do better.
I'm not imagining that, am I? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I used to do brunches all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I just find it a bit annoying. But again, and I don't take my invitation into queer spaces like lightly, but there where I've had some of my best like community, like just building experiences, you know, and just like going to like amazing like electronic nights, hip hop and R&B, like these are where I found my people. Community and music. But that's it, and it's tough because especially post pandemic, so many amazing venues like got locked off, and I think also I think the rave has definitely come back. Don't get me wrong. But it is different now. It is different, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know what the difference... I can't like pinpoint it, but I mean, I went to Ibiza for my 30th and I was in a club that was like disco music and incredible, but it was not super inviting for me as a queer person. And I'm like, do you know the history of disco music? Correct. Do you know where that came from? Yeah. Like, that's on the shoulders of queer, black, trans, Latino, all of these cultures that like made this incredible music, and then I'm not feeling welcomed in a space and everyone's on their phones filming. Which is, exactly, yeah. I find that so bizarre, but that's the thing, you've got to say the quiet part out loud. Exactly, it's a shame, and know your history of music. Correct. Talking of music, yes, babe. What was your introduction to the UK music scene? Oh my God, I mean, Honestly, radio. That's
Yeah.
why I fell in love with it. Like long car trips with my parents. Like on weekends we just go and visit like aunties and uncles. Like my dad had everything on, whether it was like classic FM, but then you pick up like pirate stations, but then like all the commercial pop stations. But then like my older brother was like really into like UK garage. Like that's how I kind of got my education on that. But then my older brother Sam, he lives in Ireland, shout out Sam. He was like really into like Metallica and like all these like metal bands.
Vast.
Yeah, vast. But I used to work in a skate shop like when I was growing up, and like I remember like this guy Andy, I swear, he was like one of the cool like older hot boys, and all the girls fancied him. And he was like, he really got me into like Nirvana and Pixies and all that sort of stuff. But then I'm like a Destiny's Child girly. I'm a Janet Jackson girly, like Mariah, Madonna, like all the big pop divas. Like I fucking love them. I love Neptunes. I love Timbaland, Missy Elliott. Like I truly love it all.
Love music.
I just love it all.
Influences.
Classic disco, Motown, whatever. Like
I see that in your career as well. Like you aren't just like, you're a bit of a chameleon in a sense where you can kind of adapt to whatever's at the moment, you know? Like the BRIT Awards, you're doing that, you're doing radio. Like it's incredible to see. But I guess like music has been such a kind of central point.
Absolutely.
What was playing in the... Oh, well, you just kind of told me what was playing in the Amfo household. But
I'll tell you about
the car.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was thinking about this. So Lauryn Hill's tour in Europe, and she did the O2 last night. And you know, I purposely...
Did she?
Yeah, and I purposely didn't go, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I went to see her in Wembley maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I got to meet her, and I literally cried when I met her because that album,
Miseducation.
Oh my God, it changed my life. But then again, she's another woman that I looked up to, and I thought, oh my God, thank God you exist.
Yeah.
I remember watching, because Sister Act 2 is one of my favourite films of all time. Every time, even when it's on like TV, Christmas, Easter, whatever, I will always watch it. I feel like it's always on like ITV2 at any given moment. But like, I love that film. But again, seeing her be like gorgeous, dark-skinned black woman, like thick lip, broad nose, when she didn't have locks at the time, but she got to be the star. She got to be like the main girl, alongside again Whoopi Goldberg, who was told like, you know, she wasn't attractive enough for Hollywood. If you've ever read her book, fucking hell, she's been through it again. Two of my biggest idols in one film together, and I'm looking at these two thinking like, rah. Again, it's possible, but that album is so perfect from start to finish, and I rinsed it. I still listen to it at least once a month all the way through. Like it's a balm to me.
It's an incredible album and body of work, and the legacy from one album. Obviously, there's a few G's, but like one album, Miseducation, it's just like standalone. It's iconic.
It is mad, and like, you know, and obviously her son YG Marley is killing it, and like he's going on tour with her now. And like you see the spread of people in the audience, and it is people of like all ages, all ranges, and it's like it's amazing to see.
Well, it shows music as a universal language.
That's it.
Everyone, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter, like it speaks to you, you know?
That's it. And also it goes back to legacy and why and who is quote unquote deserving of public adoration, even though Lauryn Hill's actually quite punk and actually quite anti that. She's very much like kind of like, I'm not trying to be a celeb, which I love. Yeah. But I'm talking about like respect for her craft.
For sure.
Like that to me, these are the people that I think we should be celebrating. Like she's a true speaker, she's a poet, like true artistry. Do you know what I mean?
She's incredible.
Yeah. Rinse that album though, to answer your question again. She loves to go off on a tangent. Yeah.
I've got a couple more questions.
Sure.
This has been incredible, and I've loved chatting to you. This is not a question I'm going to ask, but how does it feel like being the other side? Like,
love it.
Yeah, good.
No, listen, it's nice to have a day off, honey.
Yes, I love hearing everything. So through shows like the Live Lounge and for Glastonbury coverage, you've sat down and interviewed some of the world's most prolific artists. We kind of touched on this. People like Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, Dua Lipa, Sir Elton John, Harry Styles, Billie Eilish, who I think asked for you personally, right?
She did.
That's amazing. Is there one trait or characteristic that you think that they've all got in common? And what can we learn from them?
That is a great question that no one has ever asked me.
Okay, good.
No, thank you for that, because that's a really, really great question. What is a trait that they all have in common?
And what can we learn from it?
And what can we learn from it? I think it goes back to what we've been talking about. They've all known who they were from early.
Yeah.
And they didn't falter from it. I think you can tell with each and every one of those people, even when they've probably had dark moments, they've all known that this is absolutely what they are supposed to be doing, and they didn't stray from it. Like Billie Eilish, I mean, she's so gifted in such a particular way. Like, there's certain people that, like, when I see them perform, I just think there is no way that you could have been anything else but who you are. Yeah. This is absolutely for you. It's like when you hear Adele sing. It would be a waste if she was anything else.
Yeah, well, totally.
Anybody else but Adele. It's the same with like Kendrick. I remember like doing the live link when we were doing Glastonbury, because so people that don't know, like when it's the big headliner, I'll go to the middle of the field, and this is live balls to wall TV. You got to be ready to like feel in case anything goes wrong or whatever. And it's those moments that I love doing live telly, because you feel so like just literally alive in the job. You're like, God, everyone's watching.
This is
Can't
real.
mess this up. You got one shot, and you got to really like capture that anticipation for the audience watching at home. And watching him, how he commanded the crowd, listening to his lyrics, the stage direction, like just his whole vision. I was like, no, you have to do this job. Like, this is your you actually have to do this. It's really magical, like seeing that in action, and especially when you hear people talk about their art and their craft, like you're like, of course you're doing this.
You love it.
Yeah.
And it's innate in a way.
Exactly.
So this is a bit of a deviation from this question.
Right.
In 2020, you made headlines for your speech about the Black Lives Matter movement, George Floyd's murder, and the effect that these events have had on your own mental health. Can you talk to me about that moment and that speech?
Do you know what? This is where I'm going to be like, I might not talk about it, only because...
And that's totally fair.
Yeah, and I kind of said it in the Annie chat. It's something that I don't want to dwell on that moment too much, in the sense that these are still really important conversations, but I don't want to cheapen his death and the movement and the conversations around that one moment that I had. And I've spoken about it quite a bit, and it's something I don't want to keep going back to.
That's
and I'll be so real with you, because right wing press, do you see this conversation we have?
Yeah.
All the great things we've spoken about, I guarantee you, still, and it's just
Stuff
like,
will be picked up.
yeah, and it's long, and I can't be asked.
Do you know what? That's totally fair and valid. And there's something, and you're probably going to maybe hate me for saying this, but you have such a empathy and a level of enlightenment in a way. You're very enlightened as a person, I think. Like, you're very confident, and you know yourself. So to even want to say, you know what, hold off, I respect that.
And I love you dearly. But it's such a tricky one, because, you know, in order for change, and in order, I think, for things to shift, you kind of have to keep talking about things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the whole reason why, you know, that moment happened is because I said what I said. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And what I said also was like, okay, I'm telling you what I've experienced. Now, society that's paying attention to me, here are the tools. Your postage of black squares, you know what to do. So no further comment from me. Do you get what I'm saying?
I totally respect that, and I get it, and people need to do better.
That's it.
Okay, last one.
Yes, babe.
Looking back at your journey,
yes,
and the impact that you have had on young black people, what do you hope your impact has been?
Oh gosh,
not just young black people, but everyone.
Yeah, because I think it's an interesting one as well, because obviously I am a soul, I'm a person, same way you are, but I exist in this body. And those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm aware of my quote unquote, I don't even, fan base, following, whatever you want to bloody call the people I interact with. It is a lot of young black women, but it's people from all walks of life, to be honest, and which I'm grateful for, because I believe that I'm for everybody, but that's also not to say I know whose shoulders I stand on, and I know who I'm affecting by. I know who I'm affecting by just being visibly me. Like I get it. And also I'm not trying to talk like I'm a fucking pop star. Like, I know my lane. Like, I don't think I don't think I'm fucking Oprah or bloody like a Lauryn Hill or like Dua or Madonna, whatever. I'm not saying that, but I'm also not trying to downplay the fact that like I know when I'm going about my business and like a lovely young black girl stops me in the street, it's like, oh my God, sis, like, oh my God, you're really doing it. Like, we're really proud of you. It honestly makes me want to cry. Like it really means a lot to me. Like I was like stuffing my face. So having lunch the other day and some girl was like, oh my God, are you Clara? And I was like, mouth like full of rice. Like, you're right. And she was just like, oh, I just want to say, like, I really love watching you do Brits this year. Like, oh my God, da, da, da. And I can't tell you, like, it truly means the world to me. Going back to what I discussed with you before, like I've definitely had my blackness questioned within my own community, and I think I'm definitely here for like the weirdo black girls, the black girls that maybe grew up like not quite fitting in, or who are told that like, no, you've only got to like this or whatever. If I can make that one weirdo black girl feel good about herself, that makes me feel fucking amazing. And if that's part of my legacy, and if that's happening, then yeah, I feel good. And I think that's what I want my thing to be. Just show up as you, I guess. Yeah.
Clara, you've been incredible. You deserve every piece of success.
Thank you, my darling.
And
back at
everything
you.
that is going to come your way. You have been an incredible guest. Babes, that was Clara Amfo.